You're not going to believe what just happened in the Supreme Court. And no, this isn't one of those boring legal updates that no one cares about. This is huge. We're talking about a 9-0 unanimous decision that didn't just tweak a law, it shook the foundation of how your rights are protected and when you're face-to-face with law enforcement. This decision flips the script on how courts judge police use of force, and if you carry a firearm, hell, even if you just care about your rights, you need to hear this. Because this isn't just about the Fourth Amendment. This ties directly into the Second, and it's already being called the Miranda ruling of our generation for gun owners and everyday Americans. Stick with me for a few minutes because what you're about to hear could change the way self-defense cases are fought, how traffic stops are handled, and maybe even how safe you are in a moment you least expect. Let's get into it. Why should you care? This is not just legal drama. This is not something happening far away in a courtroom that doesn't touch your life. If you've ever been pulled over, open carried, concealed carried, or even just had law enforcement show up at your door, you're in this. This decision affects you. Because in those tense moments with police, seconds matter. Words get misunderstood. Body language is misread, and too often, innocent people pay the price. Until now, courts mostly focus only on what happens in the final few seconds, ignoring everything that led up to it. But not anymore. This ruling just changed the rules of the game. It shifts the spotlight from just that final split second into the entire situation. Every move, every word, every decision leading up to it. That means your actions and the officers are both on the table now. So whether you're a gun owner, a self-defense advocate, or just someone who believes in fairness and accountability, this is your moment to pay attention because this is where the Second Amendment meets the Fourth. The Supreme Court just connected them in a way we've never seen before. Barnes versus Felix, the case that changed it all. This whole thing started with a man named Demetrius Barnes. He got pulled over by a police officer named Felix because of unpaid tolls. Not speeding, not drunk driving, toll violations. Now, during the stop, something happened. Barnes suddenly decided to take off. He drove off with Officer Felix still holding on to the side of the car, literally hanging on as the car moved. While the car was in motion, the officer pulled out his gun and fired 2 shots, killing Barnes. Now, here's where things get complicated. The lower courts, the judge who first looked at the case said, well, the officer was in danger at that moment, so the shooting was justified. They were looking only at those final few seconds, not what led up to it, not whether the officer had a chance to de-escalate, just that single moment where he felt threatened. But when the case reached the Supreme Court, the justices basically said, hold up, that's not good enough. They looked at the whole situation and said it's not fair to judge something that serious based on only a few seconds. You have to look at everything that happened from the start of the stop all the way through. What did the officer do? What did Barnes do? Were there other choices? That's what makes this case so important. The Supreme Court didn't just rule on one shooting. They changed how these cases are supposed to be judged from now on. And that's a big deal. The moment of threat rule. For years, decades actually, courts judge police shootings using a very narrow rule. He only focused on the final 1 or 2 seconds before the trigger was pulled. They would ask just one question. In that exact moment, did the officer feel threatened? The answer was yes. Even if it was just a quick panic reaction, the court would usually say the shooting was justified. It didn't matter how the officer ended up in that situation. It didn't matter if they made poor choices leading up to it, ignored warnings, or even caused the danger themselves. As long as they said they felt scared right then, that was enough. And that's the problem. The kind of thinking ignores the bigger picture. It's like watching the last 5 seconds of a movie and deciding what the whole story was about. Real life doesn't work that way. The Supreme Court finally said that needs to change. The new standard, totality of circumstances. Supreme Court just threw out the old narrow rule. Instead of only looking at those last few seconds, they said, let's look at the whole story. That means courts now have to consider everything that happened leading up to the use of force. What the officer did, what the person did, what choices were available, what could have been done differently. It's not just about a single moment of fear anymore. The justices said the real question should be this. Was the officer's behavior objectively reasonable from the point of view of a reasonable officer in that full situation? In simple words, would another trained, reasonable officer, knowing everything that happened, have done the same thing? That's a much fairer way to judge these situations. Doesn't let officers hide behind split-second panic if they made bad decisions that led to that panic. Now the whole timeline matters. The buildup, the warning signs, the missed chances to avoid conflict, all of it. And that changes everything about how these cases will be handled from now on. Why this matters to gun owners? You're driving. You get pulled over. You do everything right. You let the officer know you're carrying legally. You're calm, respectful, fully within your rights. The officer gets nervous. Maybe he misreads your body language. Maybe he thinks you're reaching for something when you're just handing over your license. Suddenly he draws his weapon. In the past, if something went wrong in that moment, if a shot was fired, the courts would only look at that split second. Was the officer scared? Yes, case closed. But thanks to this new ruling, courts have to look at everything. Your calm behavior, the way you communicated, whether you followed all the rules, and whether the officer jumped to conclusions too fast or could have handled it better. This is a big win for gun owners who are doing everything right, but still end up in dangerous situations because of fear, bias, or bad judgment. It's also huge when it comes to things like the red flag laws or open carry situations, and you're following the law, but someone else misinterprets your actions. The bottom line is this: your rights don't disappear just because someone panics, and now the courts are being forced to look at the full picture, not just the moment of fear. It could mean the difference between being blamed or being protected, between injustice or accountability. Nationwide legal impact. This ruling doesn't just affect one officer or the case, it affects the entire system. That means lower courts, the ones that usually handle these cases first, will have to change the way they decide if force was justified. This could also open the door for old cases to be challenged again, especially the ones where decisions were made using the outdated moment of threat rule. If someone was denied justice before, they might get another shot, and it doesn't stop at the courts. Police training, both state and federal, will have to evolve too. Officers need to be taught how to think long-term in tense situations, not just to react in fear at the last second. Departments will have to teach better judgment, smarter decisions, and more responsibility. So yeah, this isn't just one ruling. This is a ripple effect that's going to touch police departments, training centers, courtrooms, and maybe even the laws in your state. Constitutional shift. The big picture, which something most people haven't realized yet. For a long time, the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment were treated like they belonged in different worlds. Second is about your right to carry a gun. Fourth is about your right to be protected from unfair searches, seizures, and excessive force. But this case just connected the two in a powerful way. Because what good is the right to carry if you're not also protected from being mistreated while you're carrying? What good is the right to self-defense if an officer can escalate a situation, feel scared for a second, and walk away without consequences? The Supreme Court ruling just made something crystal clear. You can't separate the right to carry from the right to be treated fairly. They're not separate issues anymore. They're two sides of the same coin. Together they form a shield, one that protects both your freedom to bear arms and your right not to be abused because of it. This is a constitutional shift. So what is next? Starting now, police departments all over the country are going to have to take a hard look at how they train their officers. Officers will need to be trained to think about the bigger picture, to de-escalate situations, and to make smarter choices from the start. Legal strategies will change. Expect to hear the names Barn versus Felix come up in more and more cases. Just like how Miranda rights became a standard, you have the right to remain silent. This case might become the next big legal landmark for how force is judged. And as more people understand what this ruling means, public pressure will grow. Communities will start asking, why did this happen? What led up to it? Could it have been avoided? That kind of awareness pushes courts, police, and lawmakers to be more careful and more accountable. Now, if this kind of breakdown helped you understand what's really going on, don't forget to subscribe. I'm here to give you the real talk and facts that actually affect your life and your rights. And I generally want to hear what you think. Drop a comment below. Does this ruling make you feel safer knowing there's more accountability now? Or does it still leave you feeling uneasy about how quickly things can go wrong? Your voice matters here. Let's keep this conversation going.